Now, do you have people who advertise on your show, and how do you go about doing that?
We do no advertisements right now.
Okay.
When we first started out, and it was me being greedy. I'm trying to figure out how to monetize different things that I'm doing that takes up a lot of time, right?
Welcome to E2P Media. E2P Media, the hottest business talk radio show ever.
I'm like, hey, I could run pre-roll ads, post-roll ads automatically through Spreaker.
Mm-hmm.
I can solicit sponsors and say, hey, for what was it, $50, you get 2 episodes. After maybe the second episode, I was like, I don't even like commercials.
Right.
Like, it annoys me when I'm watching a show or listening to a YouTube video and then it gets interrupted and I have to listen to a word from our sponsors. I'm like, if I don't personally like that from the end consumer's point of view, why am I putting that out on my own personal distribution network?
Well, but with the advertising though, isn't that a great way though to bring in a source of income with the advertising?
It is. It's a very good source of income. And here's the biggest thing that I've learned is knowing exactly what the objective is going into the project. So I didn't, and my wife, she beats me up on it every day. I didn't really develop the model, the plan when I started this program. I just kind of hit the ground running and ran with it. Knowing that my most important objective with the podcast is brand awareness.
Right.
Monetizing is going to hurt that objective.
Okay.
If my bottom line, if my end objective for the podcast was to create a brand with a revenue stream, then that would be different. That would be different.
Okay.
So I had to discover that as we went through and just you're in a deep conversation. You know how it is doing it in a deep conversation, and I have to kind of like create a unnatural pause. So I can tell you about credit card processing, and then give you the link to the website to direct you to how to go, get your 10% off.
Right.
Then pick up the conversation back where we left off. It was just so awkward, and especially this early in the process.
Okay.
And the recommendation that I give to people, first half is knowing your end objective. Are you in it? Are you doing it for brand? Which is the best way to do it. That's the most effective way to do it is brand awareness.
Okay.
And brand building. If you're doing it for monetization. The longer you can put off monetizing, the more leverage you'll have with your listeners.
Okay.
So
right.
if you can have a show that's going on for 3 years, and there's never been any commercials, like, wow. Now, my other side of that I think about is if I do start incorporating commercials into it after that, am I going to lose a listener base because they're used to it being a certain way?
Right.
I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, but I recommend and there's no time limit. There's no time limit. Research will tell you it's per 1,000 listeners is how the advertising cost is established.
Okay.
So if you have 1,000 listeners, you pay this many per 15-second or 30-second ad. Whether it's pre-roll, mid-roll, or post-roll, that can be factored in too of how much it's going to cost in total. Now, if you have 10,000 weekly listeners, that's 1,000 times 10, right? Now you're just you're times in that advertising cost times 10 because it's going to buy a per 1,000 listener ratio.
Okay.
And that's advertising, period. That's TV ads. That's radio ads back in the day. Same thing with the podcast advertising. It's just like I said, if that's what the objective is, wait as long as you possibly can.
Okay.
Just as much value as you possibly can up front. Create that audience.
Right.
So once you have that loyal audience, they'll go buy your book. Yeah, they'll register for your event.
Right.
And then that's the way you monetize that listenership.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then some people look at it different ways. This is the way I look at it. If you're listening to my show, unless the content is directly related, which a lot of times it's almost impossible to make that because you don't know where the conversation is going to go.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Kind of go off of the industry that the guest is in, stuff like that. But unless it's directly tied to my subject content in the show, I hate to introduce anything else for money.
Okay.
It's like I'm going to tell you about in the way we had it pretty fair. Like the only things that we were advertising were companies that we do business with, like our proposal company, our merchant services company, our internet company, our phone company, things that we had personal experiences with. Because we have a sales and marketing background, so we kind of had some smarts to go about that. Again, my personal preference would utilize the other activities that you have going on as a business owner, as the host of the show, as the brand that the show is building to promote that brand, whatever that brand has going on. If you're sale going on with prom dresses and your show is about fashion, I'm just giving you an example. There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, hey, visit the website before the show's over to get 25% off your prom dresses.
Right. Makes sense. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, I was just curious because, I listen to other podcast programs or other shows that are out there, a big part of it is the advertising is what makes them their money. It's not about you, doing the show and people coming on the show or whatever the case may be. It's just the advertisers that keep it running. So I was just curious about how that works and how soon, if I was to think about going that direction, when I should. But the way that you're describing how you do it, I currently do pretty much the same thing where everything that I do is about the brand of who I am and what I am. And then it also, like I said, helps all the other women that I interview. And I do interview some men, but predominantly I interview all women who own businesses. Yes. So, it increases my brand, but it also increases their awareness at a much larger platform.
Yep. So here's the thing. My wife just mentioned a very valuable statement. I can't remember where we heard this from. And maybe I heard it from her. She says so much stuff that helps me.
Right.
If I only listen. But then talking about sponsors, right? We don't have to worry about this because obviously we're doing it the what I would consider the better way. But she said the downside to having a sponsor is you become slave to that sponsor.
Absolutely.
What happens is you kind of start to dictate what you can and
cannot do. Right.
And it cannot do.
And she's right. Yep.
And then you lose. I forget the word, but it's is it not annuity? Annuity. The word, yeah.
But then if your brand is associated, let's say for instance, when you're looking at what happened with H&M, and you have a 10,000, 20,000 plus listener base, and you've done ads for H&M, and now even all this bad publicity,
that pulls down onto your brand,
your podcast,
right.